Hello, welcome back to BHWV1. My name's Andy Shaw. Today I'm going to be reviewing a book that somebody called Bebop wanted me to review, so not my fault, he wanted to know about this. It's called the Barry Harris Workshop Video. We called the workshop video because initially it was filmed on video and then the video has been transferred to DVD, so the quality's not brilliant. It's alright, you can watch it, but it's not in higher definition or anything like that. And the sound quality is okay, you can just about, by modern standards, it's just about okay. But there's a lot of information from Barry Harris mainly, teaching a class. And then it's very difficult to follow because he's talking to a class and he's saying up and down this scale, up and down that. Unless if you don't really understand it, which I didn't, I must admit, I found it quite difficult to follow. You need this book, and in this book there's examples, and this is the main failing of this course, I think. Well, it's not a failure. I mean, there's some really good information on this, but the book isn't written very good. There's no explanation for what you're doing, and if I hadn't have actually studied people like Charlie Parker, I would have really got a bit lost on this. Howard Reeves, who is the author of this book, right? He doesn't put any key signatures in. Well, there don't seem to be that many key signatures, and it's incredibly irritating. I honestly don't understand it. I just don't understand why these books turn out, with these Americans. And he's Canadian, Howard Reeves, but it must be Canada, America. I don't know, they probably don't like key signatures. But not putting a key signature into music just makes it very difficult it makes it difficult to study, and you want to be studying stuff, you want to be listening and studying. And the thing is, I convert things quite fast. I can convert things quite fast in my brain, but I do it much faster when I've got a key signature, and things, and I can say, oh, right, that belongs to that key, and the chords for that key order. But with this, there's just a load of scales written out, all in C. Everything's in C with incidentals on, and you're having to think all the time. Barry Harris makes some sweeping statements at the beginning. He makes it a first statement is what I want. This is the first thing I want to talk about, which is just the first few pages of this book. The main sweeping statement he makes is about Charlie Parker doesn't play through changes. He plays over a 2-5-1 like D minor G7. He would play the dominant chord or a scale based on that dominant chord and completely ignore the minor chord, not actually play on the minor chord. So what he's saying is that over a subdominant dominant function, we're just playing dominant function. Now he gives some quite good examples, and what he does is he talks about 3 arpeggios that you should play on the scales, on this scale. I'll explain this on paper so you can see it, but what he's saying is you can play 3 arpeggios over this scale, this dominant scale, right? He doesn't see things in key signatures with major scales, it's all this dominant scale. You can play 3 arpeggios. Now, those 3 arpeggios you do find in Charlie Parker's music, right? Now, he says that he listened to the chord's playing like a D minor. I'm giving you this in C, by the way, to make it easier. He listened to a chord that's D minor, right? But Charlie Parker's not playing the D minor, he's playing a G7 arpeggio. So he says, oh, he must be playing dominant on D minor. Now, that's a sweeping statement to actually make that out as though Charlie Parker's doing that just by listening to a couple of chords. You know what I mean? What you've got to do, you've got to study a load of solos to make that statement, So I'm not convinced, really. I had a look in these arpeggios that he talked about are certainly important in Charlie Parker's music. You just play up and down these arpeggios. But Charlie Parker's music's not about running up and down scales. A lot of it is to do with the melodic line and voice leading. And there's a lot more arpeggios involved in Charlie Parker's music, which I'll show you, even from the Charlie Parker Omnibook, which are on the dominant chords, and they're nothing to do with these 3 examples that he gives, you know what I mean? So they are there, but there's a lot more, you see. So it's kind of like he's giving you information, but you haven't got to accept that information as gospel. You've got to say, oh, this is interesting. Yeah, that seems to work. But then you come across things that are not the same, and you have to say, well, he's got this bit right, but this bit's not quite. It's not a set rule as he makes that. Thing is, with Barry Harris, he's giving you all these rules. Oh, this is how it's got to be, and you can see it a different way, you know. So anyway, we'll carry on. We'll have a look at Barry Harris and see what he has to say. Okay.